Hello everyone. That's odd. My camera seems to be lagging a little bit. Maybe I'll try closing that and restarting it. Anyway, regardless, hello. How are you all doing? Here we go. Let's see if that's working. Doesn't look like it. Dagnabbit, I thought I was going to have a really cool reveal with a cool camera, but it looks like it's just lagging like crazy. Could you let me know in the chat if you can hear me at least? If it's all coming through clearly through voice, then we can still go. Just post in the chat to let me know if that is the case. Let me check. I'll double check my microphone sound. Looks like it's coming through. Might stop that camera because it doesn't seem to be working. Oh well, that's a shame. Damn, thought I was going to have a really cool reveal there. It looks like we can hear me. Awesome, fantastic. Well, you can't see me, but you can imagine me sitting in that chair. If I finally manage to suss these things out over the weekend, hopefully that's where I'll be sitting when it all comes down to it. That'd be quite nice if that ends up working out. If not, that's okay. We'll try and do some interesting stuff moving forward. Rightio, what do we have planned today? Well, first thing is first. I need you, if you're on the stream and you're able to watch and you're in my class in particular, I just want you to post in the chat. You can just say hi, you can say whatever you want. You can have your own conversation in there. The important thing for me is that I'll go back and look at this chat and just double check some people who have been in here. It's all good if you end up coming back to this later, but this is just a way of me to track how useful this is for you guys and how accessible it is. It might be that only a couple of you in future are able to access this for whatever reason. So it's important data that I've got to gather. Okay, thank you very much. Lovely to see you all here. Lovely to see you all posting in the chat. What have we got planned today? Well, the first thing is first, we're going to go through a little bit of feedback on the formative assessment that you guys did last week. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to go through that. I know that it's like a little bit of a hectic time, but it's lovely that you were all still able to do that. If you weren't able to do that for whatever reason and you would like to do it, if you'd like to do that, you're welcome to send me an email with your submission. I'm happy to mark that for you. But those of you who haven't done that, what you'll see on Spider is that you've got a D grade, like a did not sit grade, and that's okay. This is only a formative assessment and we will have one later this term. After we cover that feedback on the formative assessment, we're going to have a look around Google Classroom, make sure we know where all the important stuff will be for the online learning this term. And then lastly, we'll look at our plan moving forward over the next couple of weeks. We're going to have to take this sort of day by day as things go, but we'll see how we go today. I'm a little bit rusty with the whole streaming thing. I'll try and do my best, but if there's any issues, let me know in the chat. If you have any questions, let me know in the chat. If we end up being bombarded by randoms again, that's okay. We've got the 61 class chat. I've got that open so I can see you posting questions in there as a backup if we need to move to that. All right, let's see if we can move through these slides. All right, first things first, the formative feedback. Okay, hopefully you can all see that slide there. We've got ourselves a mosquito and we've got ourselves a Christian Slater. So to get an achieved in this question 1 on that question involving slaters and involving mosquitoes, you would have need to cover thermotaxis and chemotaxis for the mosquito. The important thing for you to recognize was that these are both directional and positive. In terms of the slaters, it was also important for you to recognize that these weren't taxis here, these were kineses, specifically ortho and clino. Hopefully you remember that from class. Additionally, if you'd identified thigmokinesis, that was a big plus. Thigmokinesis relating to touch, and therefore that clumping behavior that they wrote about in that question. The important thing was you showcasing your knowledge of the distinctions between those two. So what else did you need to get an achieved? Well, to get an achieved, you needed to sort of describe something along these lines. And so there's an example there of the sort of content that you would have written. Down here is a really interesting article. You guys might be interested in this. It's where this image comes from down here. And it's about just how mosquitoes detect humans are present and are able to go in and harness some blood. Now, it's important to remember that not all mosquitoes are blood-sucking, and they only do it at certain portions of their lives. In fact, if we look at the previous slide, you can actually see that mosquitoes are pollinators a lot of the time, and they have some really interesting behaviors around that. So hopefully you don't have an entirely negative view of mosquitoes. That article is there for you if you want to have a look at it. Okay, to get yourself a merit, you will have needed to describe these in more detail, specifically not just defining what those words meant, but relating them to the mosquito or to the slater and describing how this provided some sort of advantage to that organism, or how that organism uses those particular traits. Hopefully that was all clear. In terms of getting a merit, there's sort of an example there of the content you might have needed to include for the slater. Hopefully that is clear. In terms of your excellence, that's your next step. We're talking about adaptive advantage of those behaviors and doing a bit of a comparison. If you were on the borderline, often those were the little details that you were missing. And this is something I'd like everyone to be able to work on a little bit. This is the key focus of biology, is being able to describe how behaviors might convey an adaptive advantage, and being able to look at different behaviors in different organisms and compare what is similar and what is different. There are a couple of slides here, slide 1 and slide 2, which provide an example of a model answer. You're welcome to come and have a look at this and compare this example to your own. It's always nice to come and deconstruct a model answer so that you can know what you need to improve on in future. Rightio. Hopefully that was all clear. If there's any questions relating to that first question, you can post them in the chat now. I'm going to move on to the second question while you are doing that. Okay, so question number 2. That was our shark migration question. So there's a couple of definitions that you would need to get in order to get an achieved. So regular and repeat mass movement, that's what we're talking about, our definitions of migration. It was nice to see some of you defining the difference between true migration and other forms of migration. I thought that was a nice addition for those of you who included that. Reasons why organisms migrate. You've got some details there about the cues and the navigation techniques. Most of you did a pretty good job at this, and I think you should all be very proud of that. In terms of getting your merit, it's about explaining those different migration cues, explaining those mechanisms behind navigation, and looking at the advantages and disadvantages of migration in some detail. I think a lot of you actually did this quite well, which was really lovely to see, and it was lovely to read and to mark. In terms of improving your answers, you would need to add a little bit more detail here. There were some of you who did a really good job, say, with the cues, but didn't have a good job in terms of the mechanisms of navigation, or vice versa. Some of you listed only a couple of costs or benefits, but it would be really important that you expanded those and really looked at how those points are an advantage or a disadvantage to the organism. Saying something like they can get more food is useful, but it's much stronger if you relate that to the organism's long-term survival and therefore the likelihood of reproduction and passing on its genes and all that kind of stuff. Some of you did a really good job at that. If you did, give yourselves a pat on the back. If you didn't, this is a place for improvement. In terms of getting your excellence, you would have needed to do, quote unquote, a full discussion on the costs and benefits of migration. And this was an area that I think is quite a challenge. And so to those of you who were able to do that high level of thinking, that's awesome. I think this should be a goal for all of us, is looking at how we can examine and answer at that level. There are some details on the next couple of slides explaining exactly what we were looking for there, and to give you an idea of the sort of answer that would be at that excellence level. You can have a look at that in your own time. All right, hopefully there aren't too many questions relating to that. If there are, please post them in the chat, and I'll take a look at them as we keep going. And we can move on, now that we've done that feedback, to the reflection activity. Hopefully some of you have seen Miss McNair post this on Google Classroom. This is about understanding how you can improve your answers in future. What I'm going to try and do now is a little bit of a hot swap to Google Chrome to look at our Google Classroom and where these things are located. Hopefully that will be helpful. So let me see if I can use the fancy software and figure out what I'm doing. Hui. There we go. Hopefully that's all worked, and you should be able to see that any moment now. I'll just check the other screen, make sure that is all worked out. There's about a 20-second delay on this. I think there might actually be a setting that I can click. Maybe I should click that in future. Yeah, I think I've missed the setting that gives us really low latency, but we can work on that for next time. Okay, it looks like it's popping up, which is good. Awesome. So, in terms of finding the stuff that you will need over the next couple of weeks, first things first, our reflection activity. If we look into the post that Miss McNair made the other day, she's got some details here. You can see that she's posted work for Wednesday, 15th of April, and if we click on this, it should take us to this page. This page here has some slides which I modified into the talk that I'm giving right now, and it also has two other slides, or two other documents. The first one is the actual task. So the task is to go through those slides, to give them a bit of a read, and to look at the comments that Ms. McNair and I made on your answers that you gave us. For each answer, your job is to add a bullet point to the document that is here. So that's where you copy in an answer that you gave and what you would add. Here is where you would answer the point here, which is the bullet point in the question that you want to improve on. So you'd write the key thing that you want to improve on in your answer, and then you'd say, here's how I'm going to improve on it, and here's how you'd add to it. I hope that's clear. If it's not, let me know. A good example is on the bottom of this document here. So take a look at this and try and model your answer on this. You can keep these for yourselves. If you'd like to send them to us for us to have a read of, we're more than happy to do that. But equally, this is for your own personal reflection and improvement. So if you could do that in the next couple of days, that would be fantastic. Okay, hopefully that's all clear. Just checking to see if there's any questions. Okay, if you do have any questions, you can post those now, and then we'll move on to the final thing that we need to get through today, which is looking at what we're doing moving forward. So let me just double check there. Okay. I can't see any questions, but if you do have any, you can post them in the chat. Our final thing that I need to cover is what our plan for the next couple of days looks like. So some of you will have noticed that Miss McNair has posted that content for today. There will also be a content lesson. I'm not sure if she's actually posted that. Let me just double check that. I realize I missed something actually. We might need to flick back to our Google Chrome. There we go. So one thing that I missed covering to you guys is the exact location of where our future lessons will be. So after you hand in your extension for your investigative report, which is located here, that post has been made on the main page of, you should be able to see that just there. Yes, I can see that she has posted the lesson for tomorrow and the next day. Awesome. Your future lessons will all be located at the top of the classwork tab on Google Classroom. So Miss McNair is going to post that and those details for the next few days or over the next few weeks, depending on how long we are in lockdown for, will appear here. I might need to add some details somewhere around here, linking to these videos so it's more accessible for you guys, and I will let you know the schedule for me uploading videos and doing quizzes and things by Monday next week. So hopefully that is all clear where that it will be located. Okay. In terms of the formative assessment grade, I can see your question there, Finya. In terms of the formative assessment grade, if you're talking about that, we're not going to remark them to improve your grade. We're going to have another formative assessment later on in the term, looking at the content once we've covered everything from the plant and animal responses topic. If you're talking about the internal, if you are interested in taking that time to extend your report that you've given, then you will notice that there is the extension for investigation report, and you can submit your updated report here on the 17th of April. That's this Friday, so in 2 days' time. If you're comfortable with how your report is, or you opted into the resubmission opportunity, you can choose to post there, or you can choose to just chill with the grade that you've got. In terms of how you see the notes on the paper, that is a good question, Rosie. So I'm not going to show a specific example of a student here, but what you can see is if we scroll down to our plant and animal responses here, we have our formative test. If I was to click on that, you would be able to see where you submitted your paper, and on the paper there should be a mark and a comment from me. I'm not exactly sure how Miss McNair has done it, but if you're in my class, that is where the feedback for your tests is located. If you have any trouble accessing that, let me know, and I'll hopefully send an email to you quickly with those details. Hopefully that answers your question. Okay, so sorry I missed that. Let's swap back to our PowerPoint. We'll cover the last couple details there. So there we go. So Miss McNair has actually just posted the lesson on biological clocks and rhythms. That's specifically on these things called actograms. If you're in my class, you've seen these before, and you've seen what these look like, and you know a little bit about them. Hopefully we know the term Zeitgeber. Hopefully we know some stuff about free running and photo periods and that sort of thing. If we haven't seen that before, that's okay. This is your opportunity to get started, and we'll have a stream next week covering those details. That stream next week will also focus on the plant phytochrome system. which is a really interesting system that does come up a lot at NCEA Level 3 in the final exam. It's quite a doozy. It's quite a complex one. Hopefully, we'll be able to get through it together next week. Additional details for you in terms of the upcoming days and weeks is that Anzac Day is on the 25th. That's the Saturday next week. What that means is that the following Monday is a public holiday. Now, the government has announced that they are going to, well, they've announced that they're going to announce potentially announcing when lockdown is going to end. Currently, if it does end at the end of that 4-week period, we would possibly have some systems of going back to school in person on the 29th. The exact ways that that will work, if that is what happens, will be announced by Ms. Offner and will be communicated to you directly. If we don't end up going back to school, because the government chooses to extend the lockdown in order to keep people safe, then we will continue to learn online and we will develop our systems to make sure that we're able to do that. Hopefully this has been informative to you guys and has been clear. We will continue for the meantime to post our lessons on Google Classroom, and I will give you an exact schedule of what I'm planning to do in terms of streams like this in the days to come. So hopefully I will have sent that and communicated that to you exactly by Monday, so you know what you're expected to be doing this coming week. I think that pretty much covers it. So if there's any further questions, you can post them in chat now, or you can post them in the comments if you're watching this video a little bit later, and we can have a korero about that. All right. I'll take a little bit of a look at the chat now, see if there's any questions. Otherwise, you guys have a lovely rest of your day. Look after yourselves, don't work too hard, all that sort of stuff. Hopefully I'll be able to figure out the video laggy issues, and you'll see me sitting in the chair next week on Monday. We'll see if that actually works out. I'm not super technologically competent, but we'll try and figure it out anyway. All right. I can't see any questions in the chat, so if they end up in the comments, I'll try and answer them there. Have a lovely weekend, everyone. Rosie, I will send you an email and show you exactly how to see the notes on your assessment. All right. Have a lovely rest of your day, everyone. I'll do a little bit of an outro, and then we'll end it here.